It's just.
And what's this for? Tell me what this is for.
This is for a magazine called Opia.
That's right. And it was a thing this is what you mentioned
before,
before,
so it's about sustainability kind of through the ages. So we're doing like past, present and future.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, well done. And where's it going to be published? Whereabouts? What is
magazine shop. It's right
around the corner.
Right
yeah,
there.
I know. Yeah. Opia,
Yes.
which means what?
It's the intensity and vulnerability of looking in someone's eyes.
She's got the definition.
I like it, yeah.
How would you introduce your line of work?
Retail, creative retail.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Creative retail. Florists, potters, anything that involves getting your hands dirty, really, and turning something into something.
Yeah.
You turn like raw product into like a saleable thing. So yeah.
How do you make sure you're sourcing your flowers as sustainable as possible?
Oh, that's a tricky one. That's a really tricky one. Yeah, there's a real taboo behind where the flowers come from, because you'd think the ones that come from Colombia were really bad in terms of carbon, but actually they're really good. It's only the travel that's the problem. Growing is great. So all our Kenyan, all our Colombian, all our Ecuadorian, all our South American and African are grown naturally. Some of them use heat sources from the ground, they use all the natural sun, and there's loads of labour, so they employ lots of people from the villages and the local communities. So the only carbon they use is to fly them here, where anything grown in the northern hemisphere, because it's a lot colder, needs lots of artificials to grow them. So artificial lights and artificial heat and artificial everything, with hardly any labour, but because it's close by, there's no problems in the transit carbon. So actually, we do our best to sustain as best as we can, but sometimes the stuff that comes from further afield is grown more ecologically than the stuff grown in Europe. So it's a real tricky one.
Okay.
The only real way to get over it, most of the problems, are just to buy seasonal, because then it's been grown completely naturally. Usually it's a financial one, usually it's all about currency. Then everyone buys it from abroad because it's cheaper, but when the pound changes and things start to change, then it will be grown here. So when it's as expensive, when it's the same cost to grow it here as it is to import it, we'll grow it here. Yeah. But while it's cheaper to import it, we'll import it. Okay. But that said, the imports can be good for not good for the environment, but better than one thinks it is. So it's a bit of a taboo, really. There's a bit of a... It's like our flower film, that plastic wrap
that we
use. Yeah. So it's cellulose, which is made from a tree, so it's completely compostable.
Oh wow,
But
I never knew that.
No, and it'd be really hard to persuade a lot of people, oh yeah, it's completely green, just chuck it in the compost. No, it's not, it's plastic. How can you tell me such lies? You're the devil. Because this is how people feel about things. But actually, no, you could bury it in the ground and 3 months later it's gone.
Oh wow, that's really good.
Yeah, funny, isn't it? So, but again, it's people's perceptions.
Yeah.
That's the products we're buying are coming in, like, ecologically. We're buying things and they're not coming in plastic film and they're not coming in this and they're not coming in that. They're coming in really good, which is great. Slowly, everyone, it's all going to follow through in the end, hopefully. We hope, don't we?
Have more people been asking questions, like, within the past few years?
Oh, yeah, big time. Okay. Now more than ever.
Yeah. Okay. How has climate change affected your profession so far?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how hard it's going to get, do we? Like, how different it's going to be.
The unknown.
The unknown, it's all unknown. So humans are really smart with, if they can't do it there, they do it somewhere else. So if they can't grow there anymore, they grow there. Where the people grow. Because as we run out of space, we end up growing underground, on the rooftops, on everywhere. I get a lot of people emailing me and they want us to open a shop, like in the high street, or do you want to relocate your business? And mainly it's because the high street's finding it really difficult now to do what it does. Because a lot of the big name stores, they're selling online and they're selling retail, on the high street, and they're kind of doing themselves. So a lot of the big names are disappearing from the high street because they're also doing it online with no overheads. Have a collaboration with another company and you can all sell it here. But a lot of us don't, the landlords haven't kind of come online, they're still being really expensive. So I think the high street's craving independence, which will slowly move into the high street, and you notice the high street's coming into the independent areas as well. So plastic use and all these problems, there's loads of problems, but with problems people do things and they create things. So from that bad, good will come, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So from the internet and the high street changing, it will, in the end, we'll have more interest in high streets. But for the moment, you're in this kind of limbo where it doesn't know what it's doing. That's it. Yeah, things have changed.
What would you say if somebody like wanted to start their own way of being sustainable through their plant choices?
So we tend to push people along flowers that you can dry out. So you grow flowers that look really great. You can use them as a fresh product, but then when you finish with them, you can dry them and then use them as a dried product. So dried flowers, but homegrown, because they're delicate. Once they're dried, if you squash them or bash them, they fall to bits. So if you homegrown that stuff, it's usually much better quality than anything you can buy, because it's been picked outside your house, dried in your house, and used in your house, and it hasn't gone through all the travel. So actually, it's much better looking, better quality. What's the best way to do that ecologically is upcycle everything, is it?
Yeah.
And then you just continuously reusing stuff, and there's no need for source products, so everything's being reused, cloth's being reused, furs being reused, leather's being reused, everything's being reused, so that's really great.